So when making roses out of buttercream frosting, you'll need to have a rose nail. You'll need to have either a 124, a 126, or a 127 rose tip, and you'll need a small offset spatula. So to do the roses on the top of this cupcake, I'm going to make them smaller because I'd like to fit about 3 of them together on the top surface. And also I took sort of a blush colored buttercream and I striped that into my bag before I filled it with the white because I want some of that blush color to show through in my rose. And it should come out right on the tips of the rose. So let's get started. We're going to take our rose nail, and you're going to squeeze your frosting bag in your dominant hand, and you're going to hold your rose nail in your non-dominant hand. So roses are a little tricky. You kind of have to make both of your hands and your brain work together, and it can be a little complicated, but I'm going to try to break it down into some easy steps for you guys. So we're going to take our rose nail, and we're going to squeeze a little mound of frosting on there. So you'll notice it's a little wider at the bottom, and it tapers up, but it's not a huge taper. I always say to do the wiggle test, and if your base for your rose wiggles or it kind of flaps around, you're going to want to start with a new base, because what that means is that your rose will indefinitely end up falling over. So make sure you have a nice sturdy base. And then the other thing, when we do our top part of our rose, we're going to start with the thicker side of that rose tip down and the thinner side up. So to do the top part, we're going to start right in the center. We're going to squeeze, and as we squeeze, we're turning our rose nail and we're bringing down the shape of a spiral staircase. So we started and we spiraled it down onto that mound that we made. Next step, we're going to think about the shape of rainbows. I know that sounds silly, but hopefully that will help you as you guys are making your petal shapes. They have to be up and down. They can't just go straight across when you're doing a rose, or it starts to kind of look like a mummy. So we want to think about rainbows when we're making these roses. So we're holding the thick side down, the thin side up, and we're holding it against that center point of our rose. And we're making our petal come up and down like a rainbow. Now I'm going to start my next petal halfway from where my previous petal ended, and then I'm going to finish that off with a third petal. And remember, straight up and down. And if you get those little breaks in your buttercream, to me that's okay, because if you look at real roses in nature, they're not always so perfect. So to me that adds sort of a nice feel to your buttercream rose because it ends up looking more realistic. So we've got our first 3 petals. Now we're going to bring it down a little bit, and we're going to again repeat that up and down like a rainbow, starting our next petal halfway from where that one ended, up and down, up and down, and up and down. So we added about 5 petals to that next row, and you can see that's starting to look really, really lovely. Now the last row of petals, what I would say is hold your tip with the thin part pointed towards you if you can. And what I mean by that is if you angle it out slightly, you're still making that sort of rainbow shape, but you're angling it so that it kind of finishes off that base level of that rose. And you're just going around. You're going to put about maybe 7 petals. And again, you get those little sort of shaky petal details towards the bottom there, and that makes it look more realistic. So I'm a big fan of that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one on top of my cupcake, and I'm going to take my spatula and shove it underneath as far as I can go. So we're kind of hovering right now with our little spatula. As long as you have it all the way to the end in there, it really shouldn't flap over, but just be careful with this step. And we're going to take and set it. Use the end of your rose nail to kind of gently guide that off. And that looks really beautiful. I'm going to add 2 more small ones just to kind of add a little bit more to our cupcake, but you could definitely even stop here. I want to show you how to make some smaller roses too. If you were doing a cake and you wanted to add roses, it's always nice to have them not be all the same size. I think that looks more realistic that way. So in order to do a smaller rose, we're going to just make a smaller mound. Same step though, you're going to start with your thicker side down and your thinner side up. You're going to squeeze, make that little spiral staircase, and come up and down, up and down. Now for the little buds, we don't necessarily have to add a ton of petals, just enough to give it a cute little shape. And that's pretty darn cute. That'll look good next to our big rose that we made. Okay, beautiful. And I'll add one more. So again, squeeze just a little mound there, spiral staircase, make your little rainbow-shaped petals. Use your spatula. And I'll place this one kind of on the opposite side there. So there's a really nice little layout of roses that you can do on your cupcake. And I'm also going to show you guys real quick how to put leaves on there too. We like to use a number 70 tip for leaves. I find that this holds up size-wise best with our flowers. We're kind of known for our big flowers, so this is a good size broad-tipped leaf that looks really nice. So in order to get your little leaves in there, you want to find the little spots that, you know, are kind of maybe some awkward negative space that you can kind of disguise with this leaf. So maybe in there, maybe a little leaf over here, and a little leaf over there. Beautiful. And voila, there is your gorgeous little rose cupcake.